All right, guys, we're gonna try this for a second time. I just sat in front of my computer and talked to a screen that wasn't recording for the last 35 minutes. Um, Very disappointed with myself. I'm not very tech savvy, but I should have known to hit record. All right, so we're gonna talk about skill development on the offensive side. When I talk about skill development on the offensive side, we break it up into two parts: dodging and shooting. Right? Before we start shooting, we got to learn how to dodge. We got to learn how to carry the rock. We got to learn how to, um, you know, dodge efficiently and effectively to get to the cage to shoot. That's just my mindset. So I always start with a dodging skill development, especially for those younger youth players, and then progress on up and layer skill on top of that as they get older and their skills develop. Now, in terms of dodging, I start pretty granular, especially for our first, second, third, fourth, even fifth, sixth. I love starting off practices with Beehive. Beehive is a great drill. It's a one ball to one player. Everyone has a ball. You could put them in a designated area or just let them roam free, but they are getting a ton of reps in a short amount of time. And you're working on skills. So the first thing I'll teach them is how to switch hands, right? And pretty simply, how I describe switching, actually, let's backtrack. Let's talk about cradling. When I describe and when I teach cradling, there's a couple different ways I do it, but the easiest way for me to do it is I have a player hold his stick in his strong hand if he's a righty, right hand up at the top of the plastic, stick head facing you, holding it vertical, not horizontal. Vertical is going to be a big, teaching point as we progress through this. But we're holding it vertical. I'll have him move his wrists back and forth. He could do this with the ball. He could do this without a ball. And then I'll add his arm. Right? And we're just working on cradling that stick head back and forth, keeping that stick head facing you, ball in stick. Once he's got that cradling motion down, I'll have him add his bottom hand, right, to the stick. Right. And then all I'll teach him is we're not using that bottom hand to cradle. We're using it is to guide. Right. It's just to keep that bottom hand and that bottom of the stick inside the cylinder, and we're just guiding where that stick is. Big key, keep that stick vertical. Then I will describe when we are a dodger, we are in running back stance, right? So I'll talk about the cylinder, right? It's keeping your sticks vertical inside the cylinder, right? High and tight. Um, the cylinder is your shoulders down to your hips. Anything outside your shoulders and your hips is outside the cylinder, and it's hard to protect stuff outside the cylinder. So when we're talking about stick protection, cradling, we want to talk about, we use the cylinder a lot to describe, keeping your stick protected. Right. So running back stance, we're absorbing contact. We know we're dodging someone. Right. We want to be bottom hand inside the cylinder. And then I'll describe quarterback stance as we go. But Beehive, great for reps. We could rep out different variations of dodging, stick work, cradling, however we want to do it. But I'll start out pretty granular with just switching hands. Right. So the first minute will be our players switching hands. Easiest way to teach switching hands, we're keeping that stick head vertical. All I'm doing is sliding that bottom hand up to the plastic, right, and cradling the whole time, right? My bottom of my stick stays inside that cylinder. Again, we talk about the cylinder. It comes straight down, right? I replace that top hand with that bottom hand sliding up, right, and then just replace the top hand, right, to the bottom. Um, so we'll get a ton of reps of that. We could do minute reps. You could do Beehive for 7 minutes and get close to 200 reps in whatever we're doing. Make it competitive and fun for the guys. Have them compete for whoever can get the most reps. And you'll see by the time you're done in a 7, 8 minute drill progression here, these kids will get 200 plus reps in the beginning of practice, which goes a long way just in terms of getting your feet warm, your hands warm. So we'll start off switching hands, then right, we'll get them moving and switching hands. Right, they can dodge at a guy, they could just dodge into open space. You can have them confined. Obviously, there's two guys here, but if you're doing it with everyone in your squad, which you should be doing, poles included, goalies included, They're going to have to carry the ball at some point. We don't want to negate their skill development here. Then you can have different variations: face dodge, face pull, right? A roll dodge, a split dodge, and you just have them dodge amongst each other in this beehive of a drill. Out of that, right? I like to use zigzag dodging. When we do zigzag dodging, everyone should be doing this. Everyone should have a ball in their stick. Zigzag dodging, we can use the lines on the field. We can set up cones in a zigzag formation 5 yards apart. Um, but we're now working on cradling and moving at the same time. Now we are emphasizing our body position. So we always want to be stick, body, man, right? Our body is always in between the man and our head of the head of our stick, right? Protecting our stick head with our body. Um, and then we're moving. So a bunch of variations out of this. Again, we're going to be in that running back stance throughout this, with bottom hand inside the cylinder. Um, this is kind of the variation through the drill. We'll start off two-handed, right, in that running back stance. Now, when we get to the cone, we're working on a split here, so switching hands, right? When we switch hands and change direction, we're going to have to switch our stick, body, man position, right? Emphasizing, right, getting that shoulder across and protecting your stick head with your body. Um, a couple different variations here. We have a roll that we can add, two-hand cradle into a roll. Now, when I teach the roll, I teach roll first, then switch hands. Roll first, then switch hands. Everything stays inside your cylinder. Once you start switching hands outside your cylinder, right, stick protection becomes a problem. Right, stick vertical the entire time. Stick vertical the entire time. No horizontal cradling. All right, out of this, we could go from two hands now to one-handed. Right, stick high and tight, and our strong hand, opposite hand, right, at a 90-degree angle, not fully extended 90 degree, right, and we're just working on protection. Right, as long as our hand stays 90 degrees, right, that won't be considered a ward. But as soon as we extend it, right, that's where a ward comes into play. Right, again, right, we're working on splits here, inside the cylinder, right, and the last variation is a roll. Right? One-handed cradle to a roll. Right? These guys, if I were out there, I would say, right, keep your hand extended. If it's in tight to your body, you're not really protecting yourself and giving yourself a little space to be protected. Right? Boom. Extend that arm, right? Or extend that elbow away from yourself, still at that 90 degrees, right? But we want to make sure our uh, opposite hand is using to protect. Right? Now, out of this, get to the next one. All right. I like to add a partner in front of us, right? So now everyone grabs a partner. They grab one ball. Right? There's an offensive guy and a defensive guy. We can use lines on the field. You can use the zigzag if you want. Right, but all these guys are doing is moving in the zigzag pattern, right, with a guy in front of us. We can do all the variations we just did, right? Split, right? Two-handed carry to a split, two-handed carry to a roll, one-handed carry to a split, one-handed carry to a roll. Big thing we're working on here is now they get to see someone in front of us as we're carrying the rock. So really emphasizing that stick, body, man position, keeping that stick protected with our body. You can do a bunch of different variations. You could have a guy just shadow, so it looks so an offensive guy can see him in front of you, or you can have the defenseman, play defense on him, cross check, and now we're feeling contact as we carry. Big thing when they switch to offhand, right? We want to make sure they're cradling. It's going to be awkward, but I overemphasize that we are continuing to cradle. Out of this, right? We could do a bunch of different progressions just for the older guys. We can work on hezi moves, right? So if hezi is that fake roll, right? Slow up your feet, change your body posture, and continue to go in your same direction. Um, you could do this across the field. You could do this 15 yards, 10 yards, up and back. But the more you do it, the more reps they get, and the more reps they get, kind of expedites that skill development piece. Next up, nail and foot. This is a stick protection drill. There's going to be two guys, again, partners, one ball. One guy's going to be on offense, one guy's going to be on defense. The guy on defense job is just to throw checks, find the head of his stick, lightly put pressure on him. Right, the guy that has the ball, one, we are not moving, so nail and foot. right? We're going to be stationary. We're going to act like, right, there is a nail, right, going right through our foot, keeping us in place. So all we're able to do is pivot, right? Out of this, we're working on feeling pressure, right? Protecting our stick head, keeping that stick high and tight. Back a little. All right. Feeling pressure on us, we're able to pivot away from pressure, but still protecting our stick. We could do a couple different variations here. Two-handed cradle, strong and weak hand. Right. One-handed cradle, strong and weak hand. Right. That opposite hand should be up. Right. For that offensive guy. Right. And that protective kind of motion. Right. Great for stick protection, right? Great for feeling contact and being able to get away from contact and still keep our stick vertical, right? And protected. Stick, man, body, right? Out of that, right? We talked about that running back stance. That's that running back stance when we're dodging, absorbing contact, trying to get downhill towards the cage. We're inside the cylinder and protected with our bottom hand, right? Posture is shoulder down, absorbing contact, head up, right? Looking where we're going, right? QB is where we, right, free our hands. Right? Our hands come up to pass. We are now in survey, shoot mode, pass mode, right? So there's QB mode, right, where our hand comes out of the cylinder, and running back mode, where our bottom hand is in the cylinder, right, protecting that stick. All right, we do this on a straight line. Right, so these cones are acting like a straight line. Anytime we're going towards the straight line, we're in running back stance, right, acting like we're running into contact. Anytime we are in quarterback stance, we want to first bounce and free our hands. The bounce is a skill in of itself, right? Our ability to step away from pressure, right? Use contact, right, against the defenseman, right? Push off, free our hands, be able to observe, shoot, redodge is a skill in of itself. Now, out of this, right, they're going to get a ton of reps of dodging the line, right, and popping to space, right? My second guy in line, I would tell him to pop a little bit, boom, farther out to the sideline, all right? But we go from running back to quarterback. A ton of reps right there. Next drill, and this is probably my favorite one for young guys. Dodge the line. We can do this on literally a straight line on the field. If you don't have a straight line, just put out two cones in a straight line. Again, partners, one offensive guy, one defensive guy. Dodge the line is really just the essence of dodging, right? We start on a straight line path to the cage. There's going to be a defenseman in front of us. How do I get around him, back on that line, to the cage? We do that with a couple different moves. This drill is really going to work on leaning in to contact and driving to work back to that line, that imaginary line that we're going to talk about. All right, so two guys. You could do it with sticks, without sticks. My younger guys probably do it without sticks. Now, biggest thing, if they start getting in like an Oklahoma drill, slapping like D tackle, it looks like that when they're running the drill, put a stick in their offensive guy's hands. But we're working on starting on a line, working around our defenseman, and then back to the line. So any dodge, at any level, will have those principles. All right, we're working on leaning into our defenseman. All right, as you get a little older, all right, we can implement a hezi, a roll, you know, the more skill that we have, the more we can layer on top of it. For our young guys, we're just working on leaning into our guy and trying to get around, get off the line, lean into contact, and get back into the line. Right? After we, go through the variations and we laid the foundation for cradling, stick protection, um, moving while cradling. Once we laid that groundwork, my favorite thing to teach in terms of actual dodging skill development is the chop jab. Um, I think it's the easiest thing for kids to pick up and learn. And I think just it's really effective. One, being a defense myself, when this move was used on me and guys dodged like this at me, I always found it harder to cover. Right. So the chop jab progression. First, we're going to teach our offensive guys when they are dodging to square their hips up directly at their defenseman. right? So when we do that, we don't give away where we're going right off the bat. We are squaring our hips up right to the defenseman, not to the cage, not to the alley, not to the middle where we might want to go. We're dodging right at the defenseman. Next thing, our first two steps should be right at our defenseman, right? They shouldn't be shading towards a single way. They should be right at our defenseman. There should be a sprint right at our defenseman. Whether it's two steps, three steps, one step, our first step should be right at our defenseman. Right? As a defensive guy, right, two things happen here. Either I'm going to stop my feet, right, and you're going to run by me to begin with, right, or I'm going to start moving backwards. Right? Elite defensemen start moving backwards once you run at them. Right? Lesser defensemen will stop their feet and wait for them to get to you, right, and then make a move. Right? So we're going to square up our hips to our defenseman, run right at them. Now, out of that, we use the chop method, which we're going to explain here. We're going to slow down, chop our feet, um, and then explode out of it. One, that chop is a little deception that we add into the dodge, right? And then exploding out of it opposite of where we step, is another skill within it as well. So we're going to break down kind of the chop first, being able to chop our feet and then push off that outside foot and really sell that jab one way, go the other, right? So we can sell it with our feet, we can sell it with our hands, we can sell it with our head, right? But just know when we're stepping, we are stepping to explode in the opposite direction, right? So this is really prepping a left to left jab for these guys. Um, really working on chopping our feet and our footwork in it. All right, now the next progression here, it's going to be three cones, right, just in a straight line. All right, the first cone is where they'll start. The second cone should be 2 to 3 yards, straight line right in front, and then the third cone should be a yard to 2 yards past the second cone. The first from cone one to cone two, it's a full out sprint, right? 1 to 2 yards of a hard, right, sprint at our guy. The second cone, those shorter distance, we are chopping our feet as much as possible. Now, in a regular chop jab, are we going to chop it, 10 times before we make a move? No, but I really want to work on keeping our feet low, chopping, right, and working on that deceptive part of the dodge. All right, so if I were there, I would tell him, "Hey, chop our feet. Get as many chops in as you can in that from that second cone to that third cone. As many chops in. Now our stick is everything here. We're keeping that thing high and vertical, right, close to our body, right. If it's too far out in front of us, right, that thing gets checked. Right? And then out of this, we talk about exploding in the opposite direction. So if I want to go left to left, right, I'm pushing off that right foot and getting right to my left. If I want to go right to right, I'm pushing off that left foot and getting to my right. So that's kind of where I'll leave you guys in terms of dodging development and just purely dodging, right? Stick protection, cradling, change of direction, right? And that stick man ball or stick body man concept in terms of protecting our stick, right? The chop jab is a great just skill development to have in terms of teaching guys a particular dodge or how to start their dodge. Um, and then as we get into shooting, stationary shooting, on the run shooting, right, we'll mix in right, dodges out of that, a roll dodge, a split dodge, and we'll work on guys moving to the cage, protecting under contact, and different types of ways to get back to our strong hand, get back to the middle of the field with our dodges.